grab me a beer and grab him a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brandon T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brandon Taz said, is your ex drinking buddy? Brandon Taz said, is your ex drinking buddy? Brandon Taz said, is your ex drinking buddy? Brandon Taz said, is your ex drinking buddy?
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the show, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, and reminisce about crazy old stories. I am sober now, but reminiscing about crazy old stories is still one of my favorite things to do. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, comedian TJ Francis.
Hello. Hello. How are ya?
Good, man. What's going on?
Not much, man. Just hanging out.
Thanks for doing the show.
Dude, thank you for having me. I'm
Absolutely.
excited. We were talking outside. I'm very excited to get into this.
Fuck yeah.
I am, yeah.
Plug everything up front. I know you have a podcast. I know you produce some comedy shows. Tell everybody what's going on.
Listen to and download, subscribe, the whole thing. TJ Francis Program. I named it that, honestly, so I can say program like Nick Saban. That's why I did it. Yeah, TJ Francis Program. And then follow me on Instagram at TEEJ Francis, and then everything else is on there, like all my Love Caddies at the Stand and whatnot. Also listen to Love Caddies. That's it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. We've this is, to be honest with all the listeners, this is the first time you and I have actually sat down and had a conversation. I've seen you at shows, and you've seen me, and I've had a lot of people we are mutually friends with on the program, so I wanted to get you on. And then you brought it to my attention as soon as you came in. You said, "Oh, do you only have sober people on the podcast?" Yeah. I had no idea, but you have stopped drinking for a little while now.
Yeah, I'm. I think today I write it down on my calendar every day. I'm, I think, 167 days sober.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to talk about since it's your first time on, I like to do this kind of in segments. First, I'd like to talk about because comedy, as the listeners know, means so much to me. I kind of like to figure out why different people got into stand-up.
Sure, yeah.
So I want to talk about that, and then we'll get into some of the drinking stories and your sobriety and everything. But when have you always lived in New York? So
I'm from Jersey. I'm from, it's within an hour drive. So I'm very close to the city. This has always been... Yeah.
So did you come to the city? This is something that's fascinating to me. Did you come to the city a lot when you were a kid, or?
Kind of.
Everyone says that.
Yeah, because you would go once in a while. Like my dad, our families, we go to a sporting event, or we never just be like, "Wow, we're bored. Let's go to the city."
Okay,
never that.
See that, and it's interesting because growing up in Daytona, I was so close to Orlando and the theme parks and stuff. So people do the same thing. They're like, "Oh, would you just be bored and go to Disney?" It's like, well, it's an hour and a half drive, and then you got to find parking, and it's a whole day. It's like, no.
Yeah, it's like when something's so close, you're not going to... I went to school near Busch Gardens, and they'd be like, did you go there all the time? I was like, I never went once.
No,
I don't care.
I've never been to a Daytona 500, and I grew up in Daytona.
Yeah. You go elsewhere to do stuff. When you're home, you fucking watch TV.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you do.
And I'm starting to realize that more and more in New York.
Yeah.
A lot of times, if I have the night off in Savannah, friend of the show, my girlfriend is working, I will literally have to say to myself, you live in New York City, fucking stop watching Ted Lasso and go out and do something.
Dude, I don't know. That's life. Life is doing nothing, dude. Why are you gonna do stuff? I was actually saying this the other day. We were walking home, and we were I saw a tour bus with a full tour bus at 11:45 p.m. and I was like, this is the worst vacation spot ever. Why would you ever do this? It's just awful. It's a great place to live.
Yeah.
But to come here and be like, I'm going to do stuff, you're like, all right.
I used to, as an adult, I came to New York once when I was 14 with my family. And then I remember I used to dream about living in New York one day.
Yeah.
And literally, I would have these dreams of being on the subway and seeing the city. And I was like, oh, that'll never happen. That'll never. And now I live here, and it's awesome. But at the same time, I feel what you're saying, because I'm I walk out of my house. I can't even pack my cigarettes walking to the subway. I have to do it in my apartment before I leave, because 3 or 4 people come, hey, man, I know that's a new pack. Let me get one. And I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah. And it's getting worse, by the way. You go on the subway and you're like, oh, this city's a nightmare right now, bro.
Yeah.
It's awful.
It's getting bad.
Yeah. And it's going to get worse. There's homeless people walking around. I'm like, I'll be with you in a year, dude. I'm with you.
I'm coming.
Yeah.
Save me a spot.
It's crazy.
I wanted to talk about did you always have a love for stand-up, or did you like comedy movies, or like how did you find your way into doing stand-up?
So I've always loved stand-up.
Okay.
I remember one of my like earlier memories. So I played sports as you did growing up, and I kind of realize now, after talking with therapists, because I'm depressed.
There you go.
Talking with therapists, like
check.
Yeah. I played baseball for the attention.
Yeah.
I never really. Every time the game, we were gonna have a game. I wanted it to be canceled because I just wanted to be on the team and like get the notoriety.
Yeah.
But I remember. One of the first things I remember is I made my I like the attention, right?
Yeah.
And I made my family sit down when I was like 6 or 7, and I put on a stand-up show.
Did you?
Yeah.
So you were on it
from 6 or 7, yeah. But
you and I are very similar in that way, because I was telling you before we started about the impressions.
Yeah.
My dad, and I do a bit about it now, but my dad used to like have a couple pops at a family thing, and he'd be like, do De Niro, do Pacino.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I don't wanna.
Do Alex Jones.
But it's but I in my head I was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. You love it.
Yeah, it was the best. I remember one time I got in trouble because I called someone who wasn't even a friend. Like I knew him from class, and I called his house phone. This is back when you had like actual tape recording message machines.
Yeah.
And I left a 20-minute message as Ace Ventura and like used up their whole recorder. And I remember he talked to me the next day. He goes, hey, man, my mom was really upset. Like if something, an emergency happened, like we had no.
That's funny.
And I was like, oh, this isn't. But I also was
what
like.
if it was a pet emergency?
Yeah, exactly. The pet detective.
Yeah. So I put on the show. I remember the 2 jokes I said. I always tell them. It was I sat down and I was like, I'm a sit-down comedian. That was my first joke. And then I said, what's up with all the rappers? We got 50 Cent and Eminem. In 20 years, what are we going to have? $1 in Reese's Pieces? Those are my 2 jokes I said at 6 years old. And then, so I did that, right? Then we got to high school and...
The sit-down thing, just real quick, the sit-down line.
Yeah.
Actual professional comedians use that sometimes.
Yeah, I was a hack even at 6.
As long as we...
Yeah.
And it works. And I'm like, shut the fuck up.
Can you say retarded on this podcast?
You can say whatever the fuck you want. You should have seen, oh my God, Joe Senra. Oh my
Joe
God.
is no filter. But he's hilarious. I love Joe.
Yeah,
He's
so
the fattest person to ever walk this earth. But I do love Joe Senra.
So then fast forward, you do the stand-up
Go to
show
high
at 6,
school.
go to high school.
Still playing baseball. I did this, but I never really thought about like, oh, I could do, I just liked stand-up. I remember, listening to like Dane Cook and all that growing up. Yeah. Then we go to high school and like Pandora was kind of popular. So me and my friends, would like listen to stand-up and we like talk about it. But I was the only one who like, I listened to it every night. Yeah. Like going to sleep, I would listen to Pandora comedy. So I would hear like Aziz, Hannibal, Kumail, Louis, obviously, all the guys, John Mulaney. And I just kind of like loved it. And then I would go to sleep all the time just listening to stand-up. And I could not fall asleep without it. Yeah. So even when, fast forward to college, I'm sleeping in dorm rooms. I like had a roommate, but I'm still like, I can't go to sleep. So I would listen. So I became known as like the guy who loved stand-up. Yeah. And then throughout high school, never thought about like doing it or anything. Went to college and people knew me as
You went to college for baseball, correct?
Yeah.
Dude, did you have a full ride?
No, baseball's not really. There's only 11.7, I believe, scholarships for the whole team, and you have 35 people on the team. So I had a good scholarship.
Football, we have 85.
I know, because you guys make all the money.
Yeah, that's true.
Nobody goes to baseball games except for the 2 autistic kids that live near.
We'd like take notes and stuff.
For real.
At FAU, we had. I'll never forget it. We had a very good baseball team because I went there.
They're great.
Yeah, I graduated high school in 2006, so I went there like 7, 8, 9, 10, and then took some time to graduate. But I graduated in 2012. And we had a great baseball team.
You guys,
And you couldn't pick a baseball player out of a fucking lineup.
No, yeah. I mean, that is true. Nobody cares about the baseball.
It's insane. Well, and I always thought it was a Southern thing because in Florida, football is God. It doesn't matter if you play D1, small D1, D1 AA, like football is God. But you're saying in the Northeast where baseball is king, still nobody went.
I went to school in Virginia.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I went to William and Mary.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I got recruited by William and Mary.
Yeah. They're good, pretty good football team. They're D1 AA, but they're pretty good football team.
So how did you go from Jersey to Virginia? Was that just...
I wanted to go south for baseball. Because football's king, but baseball's big down there. More southern up here. Basketball's huge up here.
That's what it is. I was like, I know nobody cares about football up here, so I didn't know it's basketball.
Basketball for sure.
Okay.
So I wanted to go down south, and I also wanted to go In hindsight, this was stupid because I fucking never, ever once thought about what I would do after college except for play baseball.
Yeah.
Or do something else. I never, like, people are always like, oh, I wanted to do, like, business. And I was like, I never once envisioned myself in an office. Yeah. I always knew I was going to do something else. But I wanted to go to the best school for some reason. Yeah. So I went to William & Mary because it was the best school I can get into.
It's a great school.
And with baseball. Like, I wouldn't be able to get in there without it. So I went there.
It's so funny how even it doesn't matter what sport you play. If you're an athlete, the standards kind of go. Ooh.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we'll squeeze you in.
Exactly. Oh, dude, absolutely. But they don't care. Like, yeah, if you can be a little bit good for their team, they'll be like, yeah, what'd you get? A 400? Just come in, dude.
Yeah. We got you.
I hated it.
Really?
Yeah. I liked the baseball aspect. So if my coach is watching, hello. No, I liked baseball, but I didn't love it, and I hated the school.
What did you hate about it?
The people.
Because it's a private school, isn't it?
No. I think it's public.
Okay, but it's a very small school.
Very small. It's like 6,000.
Oh my God. Yeah. See, I went to FAU, which is considered a small public school, and that's like 30,000. I mean, it's a commuter school, so a lot of people drive in, but it's like 30,000 kids when I went.
Yeah, I wish, dude. I hated my school. It was so small. It was high school on steroids.
Yeah. Me. So my whole thing was, because my high school was 3,700 kids, so that's not much bigger.
Yeah.
My whole thing was, and I've talked about this before, but it's like I have to play D1.
Yeah.
And I remember because I played offensive line in high school, so it's like I'm not playing offensive line.
You went from offensive line in high school to fullback?
Yeah. So that's a
wild move.
So this is how it happened was this is when Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer were making the spread. Yeah. After Nice, when he's at Florida and the spread is like blowing up. Mm-hmm. Everyone's doing the spread. Everyone's like, Urban Meyer's going to track meets to recruit wide receivers. He's not even going to football games. He's going to track meets.
Fuck waitresses. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You know, Urban.
Yeah. Doing urban stuff.
Doing urban. Well,
and faking heart disease. All right.
And so, Florida Atlantic. So I graduate high school. I take 2 semesters off to like train and get in shape because I hadn't gotten recruited by any D1 schools.
Right.
So then my uncle comes to me and he says, "Hey, do you still want to play football?" I said, "Yeah, but I only want to play if it's D1." So we sent out 119 letters because at the time there were 119 Division I schools.
Really?
Yeah. We sent a letter to every single one of them. Now it's like 136, but at the time it was 119.
Yeah.
And so we sent a letter to every single one of them, and out of the 4 or 5 schools that I had actually gotten accepted to, 3 of them were like, well, you can walk on, but you'll never touch the field. FAU was the only school that reached back out that still ran a pro-style offense. And a pro-style offense needs a blocking fullback. Yeah. And since I was 6'1", 220, I was too small to play offensive line.
Yeah.
But I'm perfect to play fullback.
Yeah.
So I went down there and talked to Coach Jackson, shout out. And he was the recruiter for our area. And then he introduced me to Howard Schnellenberger, which when you meet him, God rest his soul, he was, turned Miami around, won a national championship there.
I knew the name.
Has statues all over the place. He was in the documentary The U.
Yeah,
because he turned them. Yeah.
All right.
And so you sit there and he's smoking out of his corncob pipe, like drinking his whiskey. And he's like, "So sit down, son. Tell me about." And it was like surreal. Yeah. And he was like, his biggest question was, can you play basketball? And I was like, well, I play. He goes, do you shoot from the outside or do you just make layups? I go, no, I like to shoot. He was like, all right, that's all he needed to hear.
Why? Just see if you're athletic?
Hand-eye coordination.
Okay.
And it was like a big thing was taking the harder shots from the outside versus just going for the easy layups. Because I'm normally bigger than most everybody.
Yeah.
And so I ended up playing there, but it was, dude, playing at a big school.
Yeah.
It's fucking...
How many people in the stadium there?
Bananas.
20K?
So the stadium we were playing at Lockhart only fit 18. And we never sold it out except when we played USF, when USF was ranked number 2 in the nation with Grothy and JPP and all them. Uh-huh. We played them and it was
JPP went to USF?
Yeah.
Oh, UC. I was gonna make a joke. Like USF has a lot of athletes with no hands, but that was USF with Shaquille Griffin or whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Same school. They all went to the same school. Yeah. Okay. So USF has a lot of
no hands athletes in South Florida,
in Tampa.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was nuts. So what was it like playing at William and Mary? Because like you said, it's like high school on steroids. So
yeah, I mean it was cool. So football there is D1 AA. Baseball is D1. There's no D1 AA baseball. So baseball was fun. We got to play good schools like Virginia, who won the national championship when we were there. Like we were a good
Now
team.
Baseball is a little bit different than basketball and football because it's a lot of all sports you get a couple of breaks and you could win, but baseball's not. Like normally you don't go into a baseball game like this team is so much more outmatched than us.
Yeah, baseball more than any sport is like any team can anyone.
Yeah, I mean that's why you see like the Orioles go on a run and they've got a roster that's cheaper than some contracts.
It's really the pitcher. It's like if you have a good pitcher and your team sucks, you're like, okay, you have a chance.
Yeah. So when you guys played Virginia when they won the national championship, how did that go?
I think we lost just about every game that we've played against them. Some games it was like 21-0. Some games it was like 4-3. Okay. So because we play them every year because they're in state and So it was fun. Baseball was fun. I had fun playing baseball there.
Well, then did you graduate or did you just
I
leave?
graduated,
okay,
but I didn't play my senior year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I started as a freshman, did well.
What position?
Shortstop.
Okay.
Shortstop, third base. Yeah. Did well. A very kind of a long story, but I was supposed to move to third, then I ended up playing shortstop again my sophomore year, tore my shoulder, got surgery, came back junior year, only played 19 games, retore it, and then quit for senior year.
Okay.
And that was the best year I ever had.
Really?
That's when my drinking really developed.
Yeah.
But anyway, to answer the question about comedy, my coach asked me to write jokes for him for a speech he had, and I didn't.
Because everyone knew you as the comedy guy.
As a comedy guy. And I was like a funny guy. I never was like in either. People are always like, were you like a class? No, I've always been like a quiet, reserved kind of guy. But within my friends, I'm like a funny person, I think. I don't even think I'm the funniest in my friend groups.
Yeah.
But I'm like a funny person and I love comedy. And I was like, I'll try it. But he asked me to write jokes and I never gave them to him, but I did write jokes and I was like, oh, this is fun. And then I remember this is the reason I started comedy is I was listening to Pandora one night. I just quit and I had no clue what the fuck I was going to do with my life. And I was listening to Pandora and I woke up and at like 3 a.m. in my college house, we lived in a house at that time, and Nate Bargatze was on. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time I ever heard Nate Bargatze. You know Nate?
Oh, yeah.
He's my favorite by far. And that was the first time I ever heard him. And I remember like looking at my phone and I was like, who is this? And I was like, this is the funniest thing I ever heard. And I was like, oh, I'm going to do this one day.
Okay.
That's when I it even popped into my head. That's when all this came together. And then I didn't do it for like 3 years after that, but I still remember that night.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
I had the same exact experience.
Yeah.
I loved stand-up, and I know the listeners are sick of hearing this, but Mitch Hedberg, Tom Rhodes, Greg Giraldo, a lot of those guys were the first people I saw on like Comedy Central Presents.
Yep.
And I loved what they were doing, but I was like, I can't do that because I'm high energy.
Did you think it was possible?
No, that's what I'm saying is like I looked at it and I was like, that's awesome, but like that's not me. Then I saw Dane Cook's Comedy Central Present where he rips his shirt off and pours the water on him, and I go, oh, I can do that. Yeah. And that's the same thing you're talking about, that exact moment where I was like, I want to do that.
Yes.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
And so you hear Nate and you're like, fuck yeah. So then 3 years later, we were talking about this outside. You said you went to an open mic and then you waited a little while and then decided to take a class.
Yeah. So out of school, I tried to live the normal life. I got a 9-to-5 job.
Where at? Is this in Jersey or Virginia?
No, in New York.
Okay.
In New York. I was living at home, but I commuted to New York.
Okay.
It's like an hour train ride. And I commuted every day and I lived in, and that's
what was your degree in?
Economics.
Oh, okay.
2.3 GPA. Fucking can't tell you a goddamn thing about economics.
Nailed it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, God damn, I knew nothing about.
I went political science and history, so I was hell bent on going to law school, and then that never worked.
It's all. I always thought I was like gonna do something else. Like coming out of high school, like I wanted to do stand up, but I was scared. So I got really into fitness at that, or coming out of college, I got really into fitness, and I was like, oh, I'll be a personal trainer. Yeah. Like that's I never. There was always something. I was always like, how do I get out of the office?
Yeah.
That was always my thing. And I tried like, I'll make you like these workout plans and whatnot. And I was really into it. And then one day I was kind of like, I don't want to fucking eat like this forever.
Yeah.
I don't want to not drink. That's really like a big reason why. I was like, I don't want to not drink because I'll get fat.
Oh, yeah.
I can't be a fat personal trainer. So I kind of stopped. And then eventually I was like, I'm just going to do stand-up. And then I went to the mic.
It always blows my mind when people are like, hey, man, do you... Like, I'll be at the gym and the trainers will come up. They'll be like, do you want to get like we can help you get like shredded? I go, dude, I'm certified. I lift 3 times as much as you do. Like, I don't want to be on a diet. I don't want to fucking live a lifestyle. Like, I want to eat like a garbage can and power lift. Like, just leave me the fuck alone.
Yep. I remember those days, dude. There was a time, freshman and sophomore year, I was playing shortstop. They were going to move me to third base. Third base, you're like a bigger guy. You don't have to be as agile. And they said, we want you to put on like 10, 15 pounds of muscle. So I would do all like the compound lifting. And then every day after my workout, I would have a gallon of ice cream.
Fuck yeah.
Dude,
I used to do when I was trying to gain weight going to FAU because I was like 215. I was like, I need to bulk up a little bit. A guy I was working with was like, get the no-fat ice cream, peanut butter, bananas, make yourself a milkshake every single night. It was
the best, bro.
Oh, dude, I loved it.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So then you do the open mic, and then what goes on in your head where you're like, oh, maybe I should do a class?
I was very, again, I'm like a quiet, reserved guy. If I don't know.
How did you do it the first open mic?
I mean, fine, I guess. Like people, I think within 10 seconds, I was like, this is my first time. And people are like, oh, fuck yeah, okay.
Here we go.
So it was fine. All the jokes, obviously now are terrible, but it was fine. And then did it in like April of 2018, I believe. Then took a really long time off. And I still wanted to do, obviously now that I did it once and it went not horribly. I was like, I have the bug. I want to do it. And I would watch it all the time. I studied it. I read all the books, all the stuff you're supposed to do. But I was like scared. And I don't like groups. Like we didn't know each other a ton, but I can come and talk to you because it's like one-on-one. If it was like a bunch of people here, I would be very quiet.
Yeah.
And I knew comedy was that because you go to these things and you see all the comics talking like, I don't know anybody. I'm going to shut up. So I was like, if I do a class, everybody's kind of awkward and I can go. It would basically just did the class to get me on stage.
Yeah.
And then I slowly was like, I just have to do it. There was something in me that's just like, you have to do this.
Yeah,
you can't
I feel the
back
same
out.
exact way, yeah.
So I just kept going. Then I started to meet people, feel more comfortable, blah, blah, blah. And then, like I said, up until the pandemic, I probably did like 5 to 7 mics a week. Once the pandemic hit, I got fired. And I was like, I wanted that the whole time anyway. All into comedy.
So you got fired from that 9-to-5 job you were talking about?
Yeah, a different 9-to-5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then now you just dumped everything into comedy. That's your whole life.
Yes. Literally, it's my whole life now.
Fucking love it.
I do everything. It sounds like gay to say, but it's like I do everything for comedy. I just got hired at a new job. And I was like, I'm going to tell. It's like kind of like when you're in a relationship, and you're like, I'm going to tell them all the worst things about me. And if they're not cool with it, I'm out. Like, in the job interview, I was like, just so you know, like stand-up's my thing. So like, how hard do I need to work?
Yeah. I did the same thing.
I don't want to work hard.
When I moved here and I got a job and I was working at a fancy restaurant in Tribeca, and then they're all owned by the same parent company. And there was another one that I work at now, where they're like, hey, we're super busy all the time. Like, you're a very strong server. Like, you're slow at the one you're at. So why don't you come work here where it's busy?
Yeah.
And I told them straight up, I said, listen, I can only work 3-4 days a week max.
Yeah.
Because, if something comes up, I gotta bail. Mm-hmm. I gotta cut and bail.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, jobs. They're like, yeah, no problem. Because I'm very good at it. So they're like, yeah, whatever you want. And then I started working there. And then after like a week or two, all of a sudden I'm getting scheduled 5 and 6 days a week. And they're like, oh, it's just for the holidays. And I was making stupid money. So I was like, all right. And then it kept kind of going. And then I had to have that awkward conversation where it's like, listen, I really appreciate the job. I love what we're doing and I love working here, but I'm putting in my notice right now.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, what? And you're like, yeah, I'm not kidding.
I
didn't move here to wait full time. I could have stayed in Florida. Like, I'm doing comedy.
Yeah. It's very funny you say that because once I left the 9-to-5, I still needed to make money.
Yeah.
So I became a caddy at a very rich country club or golf club, whatever they call it, in Bayonne, where like billionaires will go.
Oh,
and you make crazy money for like 5 hours of work, right? And I recently quit that because it took the same thing. It was like, it's great money. And a little bit of me was like, I would take a loop or whatever, that's what you call it, because I'm like, okay, I'll make $500 in 5 hours. I'll go do that. But then I was like, oh, well, I'm missing spots to do this. And then I was like, I know it's crazy, but I'm walking away from this. Yeah. So I quit because I was like, stand-up's more important. I'm not living this life to be a caddy. People
look at you so crazy when you do that. Because people come to me at my job all the time and they go, hey, man, you're like a really good server. Like you work 6 days a week, like other servers, like our like lead servers will come and be like, hey man, if you work 5 or 6 days a week, you could clear like 150K. Yeah. It's like, yeah, but it's not about that. I don't care. Yeah. Like I could be and I work enough to pay my bills and to live comfortably. Like I can go to the stand and not worry about like, hey, if I get a pizza, like, am I able to tip? Like I can live comfortably. Yeah. But at the same time, like, if they call me and say, hey, do you want the night off or a little slow? Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. Boom, I'm going to 3 different mics. Dude. Or I'm going to a show.
I feel that. Normal people don't feel that.
They
but
are so blown away by it.
People who don't have a dream or don't like follow a dream. Like you say, like, yeah, I don't really care about the money.
Yeah.
I want to make enough money. I don't spend any money except for food and rent. If I can just make that. Do you? Yeah. I don't like buy things.
Oh, okay.
Every piece of clothing I have is like a hand-me-down from my taller younger brothers.
You got the caddy shirt on. Yeah. Oh, that's a Caddyshack.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even know how. I'll be honest, no clue how I have this shirt. I just get clothes. I don't know how.
So you got now you do Love Caddies, you do the TJ Francis program.
Yeah.
And then you also produce shows because Love Caddies has an actual stand-up show.
We have an actual stand-up
right?
show, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and then on top of all that, you're still just doing spots like crazy because I see you're out all the time.
Yeah.
And so we talked about this kind of before, and then we're going to get into the drinking stories.
Sure.
But you had mentioned this before because we were talking about open mics, and everyone knows my position on that who listens. And I was telling you about my position. Where it's like, I've been doing comedy long enough. I have a tight 5. I have a tight 12. Like, I'm not going to go to an open mic and do my tight 5. Like, have you lost your fucking mind?
Yeah, of course.
And then we see comics do it. Like, it's the same 5.
Are they new?
Yeah, they're newer. So they just keep doing the same 5. It's like, you have to keep writing.
Yeah. I write.
You have to keep going.
At the mics.
Yeah.
That's like, I'll be like, all right, what do I want to talk about? I'll either think of like a story or like something. But
And
just
then
go
work it
talk
out,
about
yeah.
it for 5 minutes. Yeah.
And see if there's anything there.
Yeah.
And so that was my whole position for the longest time. And then you had mentioned, you go, yeah, sometimes I don't even like doing the mics because I'd rather try new material in front of an actual audience. And that's when I said, oh, well, I'm not afforded that opportunity. Like I'm not getting booked enough.
Right.
And then you brought up a thing that I don't think I've ever really talked about on the show, but barking.
Yeah.
Which for those of you listening who don't know, barking is where a club will be like, hey, if you can sell so many tickets, you'll get so much stage time.
Right.
So how did you get into that, and what was that like compared to bringer shows, compared to open mics, compared to the whole thing?
So again, I've only done 2 bringer shows, both before the pandemic. Mm-hmm. This is like, again, when I really wasn't taking comedy that seriously. I just wanted a show to show my parents, look, I got a show. And even though they didn't know what it was. They just came because
You told them.
Yeah. I wanted to bark. I would say like a week or 2 before the pandemic hit, I was like, I'm going to try to bark. And I would go, and they're like, you just got to hang. But I'm so bad at hanging that after like 10 minutes, I'd be like, all right, I'm out.
Oh,
like,
really?
Oh, yeah. I would go, this is before the pandemic. Then the pandemic hit, and I was like, I want to fucking bark. That, like, at this point, I'm all in on comedy. Back in the day, I was like, I go home, I got work tomorrow, it's fine. I'm going to go home. Now I'm all in. I got nothing. This is I need to make this work. So I would just go, and I set a goal. My boy, I love Nate. He's my guy, Nate Bargatze. And I remember he's like, people always make these goals like, oh, I want to sell out Madison Square Garden. He's like, just make what you want next your goal. So I was like, what's my goal next? I want to bark at
short-term goals, yeah.
That was my thing. So I just went to the Pair every night and hung out just literally every night, drinking, not even getting on, just talking to people, drinking. Drinking too much, and then eventually it just happens. Like I just got put on barking, and then I started barking, and I would sell enough that they'd be like, oh, we'll come back and do it. And then for like about a year, I did it fucking every day.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. Like every day. And it was the bar. I'm like pretty much done with it now. I don't really do it anymore for a few different reasons. But
He's too big to bark.
I mean, it's like I'm giving up barking knowing I'm giving up a ton of spots.
Yeah. I mean, no, but you can say it. It's one of those things where just from the outside perspective, because we don't bark, obviously, at the shows in Florida. Like, you just get put on.
Yeah.
And then you hope to God people invite their friends. But up here, it can be kind of... Like, I'll run into comics when I go down to, like, hang at the cellar with some friends of mine or something. I'll run into comics outside the Pair barking, and most of the time I know who they are.
Yeah.
And it can be kind of like, oh, man, that's shitty.
Yeah, it sucks. It's the worst. You go out there and you stand on a corner for 2 hours while drunk people make fun of you for chasing your dream. They're like, oh, you have a comedy show? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, how about fuck your comedy show? And you're like, oh, okay, have a good night, buddy. I'll see you.
Fuck your comedy.
Yeah. And anyway, so I started barking. I barked literally like every night at least one time for a year. There's times I barked for like 6 hours straight.
Damn.
And it's all because you fall in, like you start to see progress because it's obvious. But like when you start to do shows and not mics, you like, oh, I'm becoming an actual real comedian.
Yeah.
You can handle an audience and blah, blah, blah. And now, you felt so comfortable. That year period of me barking, I got so like exponentially better. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me for my comedy career. But now, again, I'm like, at some point, you gotta give it up.
Yeah.
You don't want to be seen as a barker forever.
Yeah, absolutely. So, just like you don't want to be seen as an open micer, just like you don't want to be seen as the guy who only hangs.
Yeah.
Which is a thing I'm trying to avoid because I work so close to the stand that it's like when I get off work, a lot of times I'll go around because I've had a lot of paid regulars from the stand on this show. So I consider them friends. So I'll go around the corner and be like, hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah.
And I'll hang out and I know the bartenders and I'm trying to avoid doing that like all the time.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be the guy who's always just hanging.
And yeah, that is a weird thing.
It's a weird dynamic. Yeah. But I wanted to talk to you. So because as you mentioned at the top, you are sober now. When did you start like drinking?
First drink I ever had was in 8th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, 8th grade.
So 13? 12, 13?
Probably 12, 13, something like that. On vacation, all my cousins are like older than me. The people I would like hang out are older than me, and they were drinking. And I've always wanted like whatever. I just started drinking at 13. And
when you say started drinking, did you have your first drink and then not do that for a while, or you actually started?
I've been through a lot of weird phases, man. All comics are kind of fucked up. I've been through
toys.
Which is weird because like people look at me a lot of times and they're like, you were birthed on a golf course, right? And I'm like, nah,
it's
like
the stash.
Yeah, it's everything. Yeah. And but anyway, I started drinking in like 8th grade, and I got into it in like 8th grade. I've been through a lot of weird phases is what I'm about to say, because I got into it in 8th grade and I would like drink in 8th grade, and then I went to high school, and I went to high school to an all-boy Catholic school.
Okay.
And I played baseball, and the baseball team was very good, and I really wanted to make the baseball team. So I fucking went crazy ham, I almost said, which is, what am I, 5? I almost said ham. I went crazy hard at I really wanted to make the baseball team. So I literally lost, like, I've always been kind of like a chubbier kid. I lost 40 pounds.
Damn.
I gave up drinking, and I became really religious.
Gave up drinking and became religious
dude.
In 8th grade going into high school.
Yes. Freshman year of high school.
But that's...
Yeah, freshman year of high school.
That's a story you hear at meetings and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I had to get in shape. I had to get my life on track, get religious.
I mean, I wasn't drinking a ton.
You're smoking a stove outside an AA meeting. Like, how old are you, kid? 14.
Yeah. Just got off church. No. I just went crazy. I'm obsessed. That's what I realized. I
have an addictive personality.
Of course.
Yeah.
And the more
most of us
get away from sobriety, or get away from the last time I drank, the more I do realize, like, oh yeah, I am an addict, even though it feels weird saying that, in a lot of things.
Hannah Berner put it the best. She goes, a lot of comedians are either addicts or ex-athletes. And those that are ex-athletes are addicts.
Yeah.
Because you have to be an addict to do what we did, to get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym, then go to class, then go to practice, then go to a workout. Like, you have to be an insane person.
Yeah.
And so she put it best. She goes, so many comics are either addicts or ex-athletes. And if they're ex-athletes, then they're addicts too.
Yeah. It's true, man.
Yeah.
Because you do everything I do that I care about, I am either all in or all out.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, with religion, like, I can't just be like, oh, I'll go to church on Sundays. Like, I would be like, hey, mom and dad, can we go to church on Friday?
Yeah.
Like, I needed to go.
I got scripture tattooed all over my body.
Yeah, man. I became really religious twice in my life, which if you want to talk about, we can. But so anyway, what was the question about drinking?
You cleaned up and got sober going into freshman year.
I mean, I wouldn't call it that. I would say
I know, but that's going to be the name of the episode.
I would say I was like drinking and I was like starting to like enjoy it.
Yeah. But then you realized that you wanted to join the baseball team, and so you kind of went all in.
There was a part of me in like 8th grade that I was like, this is bad. Like, I remember I had my friends still make fun of me to this day. I remember I texted them in like, I don't know when it was, probably freshman year, like before I got, like in the beginning of freshman year. And I was like, hey, do you guys want to come over? I have 3 beers in the closet. Like, yeah. And it was like 3 people. I texted like 3 people. I was like, I have 3 beers in the closet. Let's go hang out. And that was me like I obviously didn't have a problem in 8th grade.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But I was like drinking, and then baseball, and I was like, oh, I'll become religious. And then I became religious. Then sophomore year, I was like, I made the team, and I was kind of like more established. And that's when I started to like
party again.
Yeah.
So I know you talked about being kind of an introvert in big crowds and stuff, but on the baseball team and like, as far as your surroundings in high school, were you like, would you consider yourself a popular kid, like going to parties and drinking and stuff like that?
Yeah. My freshman year, I mean, like I said, I was like a hermit. Yeah. Like nobody, like people were always like, oh, he's mysterious. That's like, I went to an all boys school, but like the girls of the, I didn't know them, but we took the train to school. So people were like, who is that kid? And he's a fucking weird religious baseball kid. Don't talk to him. But then once I started drinking, that was my way to break out of my shell. So I drank a lot, and I became like I would say I was like a more popular kid. Like, I went to the parties and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is Tim?
Tim is me.
No, but in the story,
the Tim?
The Tim.
Oh, yeah. So I'm TJ Francis, but my real name is Tim Hohen.
Because you sent me
Yeah.
the Tim in quotes.
That was my nickname for when I got like really drunk.
Fuck yeah, man.
Yeah. So anytime like
Brandon Taft.
Yeah. Anytime there was like, oh yeah, you had a nickname.
Yep.
You were like, how was
Alter
the party?
ego.
Oh, the Tim
ego.
came. Yeah. And you're like, oh fuck, so it was bad.
Party's over. Brandon's here.
Yeah,
That's the fucking same exact thing, man.
Yeah. The Tim is what they called me because So I had the Tim. In high school, because I'm sure you're the same.
Alter egos, man.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, I'm an obsessive person, right? So it's like when I start drinking, I can't stop.
Yeah.
Until I pass out.
Yeah, I'm very aware.
So, but like, I also would do this thing, and where like, if I see this is like the full cup here, like that's the full cup. If I'm here, I'm ordering another one so that it's there by the time.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I used to go to the liquor store when I only had half a handle.
Yeah, dude.
Because I knew I could get through an entire handle in 36 hours.
Yeah.
So after the first 24 hours, I knew this isn't going to last me another 24 hours.
Yeah.
So I'd go get another one.
Yeah.
Dude.
Yeah, it's the same shit.
Yeah.
And I would do that in high school. And again, now that I'm like taking a step back and I'm like really looking at how I drank, I'm like, oh yeah, that shit was bad.
Yeah.
But like at the time, I didn't realize. I would just be like, oh, there's 12. Like we're going to the party and we have like a 12 pack. I'm like, well, we should get a 36 pack just in case maybe the party goes.
Yeah.
Till
What
tomorrow.
if we want to keep going?
Yeah.
So when you sent me the story about, so obviously the Tim. Are you okay?
Yeah, I almost fell.
The Tim came out more than a few times, but
yeah.
What is this throwing up story that happened?
So in high school, I missed a lot because I got drunk, like fun stuff. And I remember this was a graduation party. I missed it was not a bunch of people. It was like a smaller party after graduation before college, like summer. And I did this a lot, which I'm sure you did. Like the pregame, I drank so much that by the actual party, I'm like, the game. I'm out.
Yeah. I talk about it all the time, but they used to invite me, one of my best friends in the world, Daniel Bearcat, the Bearcat, the original drinking buddy, the guy I told you about. He, his now wife, but it was his girlfriend at the time, Karen, Care Bear, would invite me over because she knew I'd get everybody like, let's fucking go.
Yeah.
And then after the initial, because I'd get like, say they had 12 people, I'd get all 12 people to do 1 or 2 shots. Well, I'm doing 24 shots because I'm doing them with them.
Yep.
So literally they would bring me over to start the party, and then after the first hour, they would send me downstairs. Yeah. So I could just pass out in the guest room. Yeah. So constantly.
Of course.
Shit.
Yeah. So
the pregame was the game.
Which still to this day, like I don't drink anymore, obviously, but people are like, well, like, do you miss going to like clubs and bars? And I was like, no. My favorite time to drink was at home on the couch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People get so weirded out by that.
I never liked clubs or bars.
Dude,
it's too much.
I talk about it all the time. My favorite time in my life was when I was old enough and like could afford a handle of vodka, a pack of smokes. I'd go home after work and I'd just start doing shots. And I worked at breakfast, so it'd be like 3 PM. I'd fucking turn on Burn Notice on Netflix and just start doing shots, watching my favorite show. Yeah. And I was like, this is the life.
It's dude, my favorite thing, and I'll say my friends from college will say this. My favorite thing in the world, I'm a huge fucking, if there's anything, like I love where did that athlete go to college? So we would just sit down, drink beer, listen to music, watch whatever's on TV sports, and then we just go back and forth of like Kevin Durant, and then we'd be like, oh, Texas. And then just go back and forth.
Okay.
And I just loved it. It's like trivia, but for like college athletes. Yeah. I just love it. So we would do that. But anyway, in high school, the Tim came out many times. But one of the times that I threw up, I threw up. I'm actually not a big throw up guy.
I'm totally the opposite.
I'm not. I threw up.
You can rally.
I see. If I throw up, I'm dead.
Oh, see, I throw up and I'm like, hey, someone give me a shot. I got to clean this out.
A lot of times I'll go like, and I'll be like, oh, I'm good. But then if I throw up, dude, I'm passed out.
So that's the throw up is your finish line. Like once you start throwing up, it's over.
Mm-hmm,
okay.
Mm-hmm. Not on purpose. No, I'm not like I'm out. But I just die. Yeah.
Mine is when I get quiet.
Oh,
so like
really?
if I'm at a party, people will be like, man, Brennan's so wasted. And my good friends will be like, no, he's not.
Yeah.
He's like kind of putting on a show.
Yeah.
And then when I'm sitting on the couch in complete silence, they go, now he's wasted.
Yeah. That's
he's out.
I don't even know how I am before I throw up. I don't know. But anyway, I missed, there was maybe 20 people and there was a pool and they all just got naked and swam in the pool and I was passed out. Yeah.
And you were just out.
Yeah. And I missed a lot, but that was one of the things where I'm like, damn.
You still think about that?
Yeah.
You're like,
yeah,
fuck,
man. I never got to see, I won't say her name, but I got to see her boobs.
Yeah. And that's a thing. Like that, I know because I'm 34, so there are people that I went to high school with who were like the super hot kids in high school.
Yeah.
And I'll like obviously I follow them on Facebook and we're friends on Instagram and stuff, and I'll see them now and I'm just like, some of them I'm like, you still fucking got it, dude. Like, how do you do that? And of course, it makes me feel good because I'm in great shape now. Where I'll see some people and I'm like, oh, you're disgusting. Like, I'm in better shape now at 34 than I was, at 19.
Yeah.
But some of them I'm like, fuck, man.
Yeah.
And they're married now and have kids, and I was like, so I could understand like being at that
age.
Yeah, and like having a party where everyone's getting naked, and you're like, I'll never see that person naked.
I didn't know at the time. I found out the next morning when people were like, yeah, everybody was out, dude. There was no clothing in the pool.
God.
And I threw up. There was throw up on me. No clothing in the pool. That was fun. That was a good time.
I wanted to talk because you had two that I don't know if they're connected, but you had one on here about getting arrested and then fighting guys. So I didn't know. Are those connected at all? Or
no, I just you get in a lot of fights.
Yeah,
but like I've only been in like one real fist fight, but you get in a lot of like shoving matches.
Was that fist fight recent?
No, that was in high school.
Oh, okay.
But the most recent thing, and this was towards the end of my drinking where I was like, oh, this is a problem. I just like it was all like a lot of this shit where it's like I kind of fought this guy alone after a night of drinking, just alone, like walking around the city. This was probably 2021, but maybe like November.
Okay.
Just alone walking around the city, and I just start to get into a car.
You just wait, what?
Yeah, I like this is like blackout. Like I kind of remember, kind of don't. But I just remember like getting into a car and the guy's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "This is my Uber." And then the guy's like, "This is my friend." And then he just like took me and threw me to the ground in front of everybody. Like it was in the street.
Yeah.
In front of his girlfriend. And I just remember like getting thrown to the ground, and I'm so drunk I just like lay on the ground for like 5 minutes, and then I just get up and I fucking walk away.
Oh my God.
I was like, damn, that was embarrassing.
So you just got into a random car and were like, this is my Uber?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not your Uber.
No. And I've done that a lot. Another thing I think I sent you is, and this is a joke of mine, but I woke up at a random
I wanted
house.
to ask that, yeah.
Like I just straight up, like I went to Manasquan in Jersey, which is like the shore. So if you've ever seen like Jersey Shore, like it's kind of down there. Yeah.
I used to do shots.
Floribama Shore now.
I used to fucking do shots on Jersey Shore.
I was never that. Again, I'm not a club guy.
No,
I don't like the clubs.
I'm saying I used to watch it on TV, and I would do shots with them as they would get ready for the party. Yeah. And I'd be like, I'm a part of this, guys.
Yeah.
In my room, like,
Were you a big dance guy?
Fuck no.
Yeah. I was never that.
I like the idea. I like the I'm a hopeless romantic, so I romanticize a lot of stuff like the past and like past relationships and like football and everything. I like the romantic idea of, hey, let's all get together as a group and go out and have this awesome night, like this movie level night. Logistically, I fucking get anxiety thinking about trying to put something like that together.
Yeah.
It's a fucking mess.
What I hate now is like, do you know the Nelk Boys?
No.
So I don't like, again, obviously sober now, but the Nelk Boys are like these kids that like, they're whatever, like respect to them. They're like these huge YouTubers that are just all about like partying and drinking, and they have this quote that they say called like full send, which is like just fucking go all out the whole time. So it's like, I'm gonna jump off this roof because full send, it's just do
full
it.
Full send?
Yeah, that's like the motto that it's kind of like just do it for Nike, but like for drunk idiots, right? And I say that because I'm like, a lot of my friends are starting to get married, and they all ask me to go to their bachelor parties, and I hate that. I don't want to go.
Yeah.
To all my friends, I don't want to go. I don't care.
You heard it here.
Even when I was drinking, I didn't want to go because the idea of kind of like going off what you just said, like the idea of just like everybody getting together and like we're gonna plan these awesome things. And like
it's a forced good time.
Yeah, just go to your house and drink. Like I don't get it. Why do we have to go spend $2,000 to go to Nashville?
So the best things that have ever occurred to me, drinking, like in the drinking sense, have all been spontaneous.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't believe we're doing this kind of things.
Yes.
So when it's forced fun, and Savannah says this all the time. She's always like, I'd rather just, it was the name of one of her episodes, just do what you feel. Because she hates trying to have this contrived, forced, like, we have to go out and have a good time. Which she gets mad at me sometimes. I'm like, we live in New York.
Yeah.
Like, fucking come to the Met with me.
Yeah.
And we're going to go see this exhibit. And she's like, you're forcing it.
Yeah.
Like, if we were walking around and we were near there and we were like, oh, let's go, then it's more fun. So this whole idea.
I like that.
Yeah. And this whole idea of like, no, like come to the back. Like you said, even when I was drinking, I'm like, now you're putting me up on this like party boy pedestal. And it's like, I don't want to fucking do that either.
Yeah.
Like, let's just all get together. And if we have a great time, we do.
Yeah.
If we don't, we don't. Like, who gives a shit?
Yep. That's why I hate like the planned bachelor parties of like even just going to Nashville. I'm like, so we have to spend 4 days there.
Yeah.
What if I don't
out
want to do
$2,000, out 4 days.
Yeah. And like, even like I booked a trip. I'm leaving to go to Tennessee tomorrow, and I'm like, every time I get like hesitant booking trips because I'm like, what if at the time I don't want to go?
Yeah.
And I'm going tomorrow, and I'm like, I don't
is
really want to go.
Is it for comedy or is it for something else? Okay.
But I want to go for the comedy, but I'm going 2 days early, and I'm going, and there's 2 days of no comedy, and then I have 2 shows.
Okay.
And I'm like, why did I do that?
Why did I do that?
So I don't want it, but whatever.
You gonna go try to hang out with Nate?
No, I'm going to Chattanooga. I wish.
Okay.
I love him.
Have you met him before?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, it's funny. This is like, I'm a little bit like, not spiritual is a weird word, but like when things happen and you're like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing comedy.
Yeah.
My mother, like right after
I survived 2 bouts of alcohol poisoning. Man.
Right after. Hold on, I want to ask about that in a second. But right after my class, the August class that I took at Gotham, it was my birthday. My birthday is September 29th. And my mom took me to see Nate Bargatze because she knew I loved him and was like just starting comedy. And she was like, oh, it's a phase we'll get over. But she's dumb. She took me to go see Nate at this club, Levity Live, in West Nyack.
Yeah.
3 years to that weekend, like the September 29th to October 1st weekend, I featured there. And that's I was like, oh, this is like, that just was so cool to me. Like 3 years to the day of meeting my favorite comedian, the reason I started comedy, at the same club he was at. I was like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Who'd you feature for?
Chris Kattan.
Boom.
Yeah.
Chris does a lot of shows in Florida.
Yeah. So that was fun. That was great.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
it was a lot of fun. But that's I don't know why I started talking about that.
Well, we kind of got off on a tangent when you were talking about the house.
What house?
The random house.
Yeah.
Which is something I've only done it once that I can remember, but this is
waking up at a random house.
And I was scared out of my mind.
Yeah, it sounds like not that bad. Because
it's terrifying.
Like I've woken up at a lot of houses before where I'm like, who the fuck, where am I? And then you see like one person that you kind of know and you're like,
and then you're like, oh, and then they're like, oh, this is Trevor's house. And you're like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
I forgot he moved apartments.
Yeah, but you wake up in some weird places. You're like, we're in Trevor's girlfriend's ex-aunt's house. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Okay.
But as long as people are there, you can be okay.
You're fine.
When you wake up alone
in a place that and it's not like, I didn't walk over. So basically what happened is, and it's a joke, I'm going to try not to do the joke, but I woke up in a random house. And so I went to down the shore where all my friends have this house. Another example of like not planning forced fun. All of my friends bought what you do around this area is like you buy a shore house and you go down there like during the weekends. And I never did that because I was like, it just seems lame. I would just be alone in my apartment drinking. Yeah. That was like the thing. I just never did it. And so I went down to visit one time. And actually, I went down to visit 2 times. One time I got a tattoo drunk that I still have, obviously, that I don't remember getting. And then the other time I woke up in a random house. And that was, we went out. And the last thing I remember is I saw a person.
How long ago was this?
2 years ago.
Okay. I'm just saying in reference to your sobriety. You still had some more drinking in you.
Oh, yeah.
You were like, oh, this is too far.
But this is probably the worst thing
okay.
I think. But anyway, I saw people. I remember seeing a person that I kind of knew, and I just blindly went with them somewhere. And then the next thing I know, I wake up in a house, and it's probably 4 a.m. and I wake up in a house and I walk down the hallways and there's like a door with like a TV playing and I'm like, okay. So I walk into that room and it's like an old man, just like, I don't know if he's naked. He doesn't have a shirt on, but he's under the covers and he's just like watching TV. And I walk in and he like jumps up and he was like, who the fuck are you? And I just kind of was like, oh, fuck. Like, sorry, this is the wrong house. And then I swear to God, and this is the joke, he just straight up goes like, it happens. and then he just let me leave. He just let me go. Like, for real.
That's crazy.
And I just walked out of the house and I walked back to where I was, which was, by the way, like a mile away.
Yeah.
It wasn't like next door. It was like
it always happens
a mile away.
I'll never forget when I was in college, and the story's a little hazy because I was so drunk, but I remember being at this party, and I remember some of the other athletes used to always tell me, because I was very timid around women. Like if I was introduced to a woman, I'm hot. Like, hey, how you doing? Hey, what's going on?
You become Italian?
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
How you doing?
Broad.
No.
You just call her broad? Broad.
If I'm introduced to people, I'm a lot more, it's a weird anxiety tick that I have.
Yeah.
But if I'm not introduced to you and I don't know you, I cannot cold call people. I cannot cold walk up to people. And I remember being at this party and one of the other football players turned to me and he goes, hey man, I think that girl really likes you. And I go, well, I'll never know. He goes, no man, you got to start being more assertive.
Yeah.
Like go up and just straight up ask her like, hey, are you feeling this vibe or whatever he's told me to do.
Yeah.
And I remember I went up and I just started talking to her. And it's the first time and only time I had done this until my alcoholism really got out of control.
Yeah.
But I remember she was like leaving and I was trying to be more assertive. So I was like, all right, cool. Let's get out of here then. Ooh. And I went into her car.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I remember is getting back to her place and her being like, oh, my boyfriend's coming over. And me growing up around women my whole life, I was like, that's cool.
Hit her? No, I'm just
No, but it's like, I was like, oh, because in my mind, I was like, oh, I was trying to be more assertive. It didn't work. So now I'm completely off the table as like a sexual anything.
Yeah.
And in my head, that's what I'm thinking. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm just going to sleep on the couch if you don't mind. Like, I don't have anywhere to go. I'm not driving. Like, I'm just going to pass out on the couch. She's like, that's cool as long as you know my boyfriend's coming over. And I was like, yeah, that's totally cool. And I think that's how it went down. But I just don't remember how we got there.
Yeah.
I remember waking up on the couch, not knowing where I was.
Yeah.
Because I didn't piece together what had happened.
Yeah.
And I walked out, same thing. It was miles away from the closest house I knew.
Yeah.
And I got out, and I used to always have this theory that if I ever got lost anywhere, just keep walking in one direction. Because the mistake people make is they like try to cut back and go back, and then you just are fucked.
Yeah.
So I just remember I got on the road, and I just started walking. And this was like my freshman year in Boca. I don't know where anything is.
Yeah.
And eventually I stopped at an ABC liquor store and passed out in the front because I had like $30 on me. And I was like, I'll just get some booze to like sober up.
That's
you know what I mean? Like hair of the dog.
Yeah, yeah.
And the cops showed up. And they're like, hey, this doesn't open for another 4 hours. Like, what are you doing out here? Because it was like 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm lost. So they called me a cab. And I remember, like, I used to tell it on stage, and I went to shake the cop's hand. He's like, nah, I don't know where that's been. And I was like, fuck you then, man. But nothing more terrifying than being like, I don't know where I am.
Yeah.
I don't know how to get home.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Phone's dead.
Phone's dead. Like, I'm fucked.
Yeah. It is. I mean, yeah, I've been there many times.
And the guy just said, it happens.
Yeah, yeah.
It
For
happens.
real, straight up was just like, it happens.
Get on out of here.
Yeah. So that was very funny. Also, it's very funny that you said you're timid around, like when the guy was like, oh, that girl likes you. And you're like, well, that, like.
I'll never know. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be like, if that has happened to me, and I'm just go, oh, well, that's the end of that then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
So
unless the women come over and like, obviously I'm with Savannah now, but unless women come over and start talking to me.
Yeah.
Then, and like I said, as soon as they introduce themselves, or as soon as someone's like, "Oh, this is my friend so and so," and then they'll like take me aside and be like, "Oh, she thinks you're cute." Once I know, like, I'm introduced, it's a totally different dynamic.
Yeah,
like I almost feel more comfortable. Like, hey, we're all friends here. But if I don't know them and they're just kind of looking at me, that's
with girls
over.
and guys.
Yeah,
I'm just bad at
same way
speaking,
because you and I have been in the same circles. At the stand or at like a place, and I'll be talking to comics that you know, and you'll be talking to the same comics, but you and I won't talk because I don't know you and you don't. That literally has happened.
Yeah.
And that happens to me all the time where I'm like, I don't know these other comics, but as soon as someone's like, oh, this is my friend Brennan, he's a comic too, and introduces me, boom, I'm in it. I'm in it. I think if you don't introduce me, I'm not fucking saying a word.
Dude, 100%. I think sometimes people like will look at me, and I'm sure with you too, because like we like in a not cocky way, like we are like.
We hold court.
Yeah, like we're not like these little feeble guys who like clearly look shy. We look like we would be confident. And like if we don't say what's up to somebody or something like that, people are like, this guy's a cocky asshole. But it's like, no. I'm terrified of talking
I'm so
to you.
anxious because I don't know you.
Yes, dude. And people say this all. The number one thing that people say to me in comedy is, well, two things. Is I thought I would hate you, and I thought you were a douchebag.
Really?
And then they meet me, and you're like a little shy bitch.
I get the same exact.
I'm like, dude, yeah, I get it. I get why people look at me and like, what a fucking dork.
It's hard too, because you get on stage and people automatically have these preconceived notions, and it's like I get on stage and I try to talk about like mental health and my mental health and like the fact that I have all these scars and stuff from when I used to hurt myself because I used to get bullied, and people are like, liar.
Yeah, because you
Like,
don't look. You look like
you are white privilege personified.
Exactly.
Nothing you say can, and it's
you
like
look like a bull, like in a not bad, like because I
say it all
like that too.
I say it all the time. I'm always like, I know I look like the bully from every 2000s rom com, but I was bully.
Yeah.
Like I tried to kill myself.
Yeah.
Like, listen.
Yeah.
And people are like, liar.
But there is like people do say. My friends will be like, once, like, I think initially when I get on stage, people are like, this guy, fuck this guy.
Yeah.
But then they hear me talk like a little bit and you're like, oh, this guy's like he's not like what he looks like.
Yeah.
And I think with you, it's the same thing.
Same exact thing.
Yeah.
I
So
get
after
on
like
stage
if you get a little bit of grace, you'll be like, oh, this guy's.
I have a couple. I have to be careful though, because some of the stuff I talk about can be dark, and if you don't know me, it just sounds like a TED talk on mental health. And so I have gotten a lot better about like ingratiating myself with like self-deprecating, like, hey, we're all having a good time. And then I'll go into the material, because it's so imperative that if it's an audience of people who don't know me, because a lot of times I'll invite my friends or, podcast listeners will come out or something like that. And then they know me and it's like, hey, we're all on the same page.
Right.
But if they don't know me, I have to get them on my side quick, because one or two mistakes in timing, your whole set is gone.
For sure.
And I'm sure you've had that happen. I've bombed so hard before.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, oh, this crowd seems cool. I'll go right into the dark stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like, fuck you.
Yeah.
And you're like, whoopsies.
Yeah.
You said, I mentioned alcohol poisoning. You said you wanted to touch on that.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever had, I guess I've thrown up black. Is that alcohol poisoning?
Yeah, so that's a big part of it. So you'll go from food or whatever's in your stomach to bile, which is green, to black, which is your like the stomach acid, like the lining of your stomach and stuff.
Okay.
And that's definitely, you're right there.
So have you ever gone to the hospital for drinking? I don't know if I have.
You've never gone to the hospital? I've
trying to think.
I've been taken to the ER 3 times for alcohol poisoning.
Okay.
The first one was kind of my own. I was like, someone take me to the hospital, because I was like fucking done. The second time was I was at work and I was so drunk and then I had a seizure.
Jesus.
Yeah, because all my concussions mixed with the dehydration, mixed with the swelling that alcohol does to your brain. I had a seizure at work, and work like panicked. And I remember throwing up that black tar like in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. And I was like, I think I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And then the very last time I got alcohol poisoning was my last drunk. It was my 30th birthday. I've told the story before, but I was my life trajectory was so different. Like, I was going to go to law school. I had all this stuff going on. And my twin sister, who had gotten in a lot of trouble when we were kids, like been arrested a bunch, like for weed and DUIs and stuff before we were 25, she now had like a family and like owned a home. We switched.
Nice.
And I was so angry at myself that I couldn't get my shit together. I went to rehab, but I couldn't stay sober. I lost my ex-fiance, the person I cared, the most about in this world, had left. And I was like, I'm destined to be a server for the rest of my life.
Right.
And I had every intention of drinking myself to death. Yeah. And luckily, by happenstance, a friend was in town. I gave him my address, happened to leave my door unlocked, which I never did. And he found me on the floor.
Wow.
And rushed me to the hospital.
Jesus.
And I woke up to an ER doctor saying, this is very strange. You should have been dead hours ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, okay.
And that's the last time you drank?
Yep.
Wow.
I was like, all right. There's a really good movie that I really like called Burnt with Bradley Cooper. And in it, he has this really good line where he says, doomed youth is very romantic. When you're in your 20s and you're partying and it's like, oh, live fast, die young.
Yeah.
That's very romantic. Doomed middle age is just sad.
Sad.
And I was 30 at that point, and I was like, all right, I got to hang it up.
So that was 2018?
Yeah.
Damn. That's cool. Well, not cool, but
no, but yeah. So so I've been rushed to the ER for alcohol poisoning 3 times. Now, you can like the medical like alcohol poisoning you can get and like not go to the hospital and survive. So you could have had alcohol poisoning, but just not gone to the hospital.
For sure.
The body is strangely like strong.
Did you notice towards the end of your drinking that blackouts would happen quicker?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why, but like the last like probably 2 months of me drinking, I would have like 7 beers and blackout. I'm like, that's fucking crazy.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I'm sure that has a lot to do with body chemistry and stuff. Because for me, I would be in a position where I don't know if the blackout came sooner. I was just doing stuff that was so like minute that I just couldn't tell when I blacked out. Like I'd be watching TV.
Everything was a blur.
Yeah, or playing a video game. Like there were some times where I'd like start playing Skyrim and doing shots, and then I'd wake up and I was like 7 levels higher, and I was like, I only remember like one of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was weird because towards the end of my drinking, I'm around people now who like party drink. And they'll be like, man, I think I have a problem. And I go, I mean, you might. It's not for me to say, but at the same time, like, you've had 4 mixed drinks and a shot, like out at a party over the course of 3 hours.
Yeah,
you said some dumb shit and you like, you know, ruffled some feathers, but like, I don't think you understand what a problem is. Like, I used to have to do shots to go to work, to drive to work. Yeah, I would have to do shots or else I'd be shaking too hard.
See, that is where I think I come in. I think I never was like that. Yeah. But it was affecting my life. Like, it controlled my life. Like, I started to give up spots and all that stuff.
Oh, like, really?
Oh, yeah. And
this is interesting because we talked about this before where when I got sober, go through all that shit. In 2015, when I fell off the wagon again, I refused to do comedy while I was drinking because I had too much respect at that point for comedy. Mm-hmm. And you were just talking about how you would give it, after you got fired, you were like, I'm all in on comedy. Yeah. But you were drinking to the point where the one thing you love the most in this world, you were like, nah, I'm all right. Yeah. Damn. Yeah. So that should have been the biggest, like, maybe something's going on.
This is why we were talking about outside. But the first AA meeting I went to, I kind of went in with like, I don't know if I belong here. Yeah. Like, do I have, like you were just said, like like the guy who had 4, like that? I'm obviously not that, but I'm also not. I was shaking and I need to drink. Now, granted, I did
somewhere in between that guy and me.
Yeah, TJ. I mean, towards the end of my drinking, from basically like from October to February, that was the most I've ever drank. I drank every day. In that period, and it would start at like, I woke up at 11, start at like 1. Yeah, I'm unemployed. I don't have anything going on. I'm just wake up and drink. I guess you could say I wasn't like shaking, but I was like, what am I going to do? Let's just drink. You know what I mean? Like, I needed it to be like, let's start the day kind of thing.
What were you doing? Beers or?
Beers. I've always been a beer guy.
I never was a beer guy.
I like whiskey. I like, kind of like just, I'm not a big shot guy because it makes me gag.
Yeah, and you don't like throwing up. Yeah. See, I don't have a problem with throwing up, so I am only a shot guy.
Yeah. No, I was a beer guy. Love beer. And I would just wake up and I would just start drinking pretty much. Like, And
then what was the thing that kind of pushed you to go to the first aid? Was it giving up the spots?
It was giving up spots. It was doing and saying things that I shouldn't. It was blacking out every night.
How did the spot thing happen? Because I'm fascinated by this because I also it's something where I couldn't imagine now with how much you and I both care about comedy and how it's our lives. Like, I could not imagine being a comedian in New York City, having the privilege of having spots and then being like, nah, fuck it.
Well, drinking controlled my life.
But that's what I'm saying. Were you just too drunk or were you just like, I just don't want to go? Or like, what would prompt you to give up the spot?
Well, what happened was, first of all, I got on stage one time hammered. Don't remember anything. And I said some things that you shouldn't. Nothing like horrible, like cancel, like nothing like
say
that.
Like the N-word.
No.
Just screaming.
Yeah, no. But say some things where like I have never seen the video. Well, I have, but I've seen like a little bit of it. But
it's an honest program.
People told me what happened.
Like,
I'm like
comedians, like fellow comedians that you respect.
And I murdered.
Did you?
I murdered. I don't remember it, but I remember my friends texting like the group chat, and they're like, "TJ's hammered, but this may be the best set that."
And someone recorded it.
Yeah.
Just don't even watch it. Just submit it to things.
No, I want it deleted because it's just embarrassing. You're just embarrassed. You're slurring. You're doing all this stuff, and I just look drunk. Yeah. And so that happened, and I was like, okay, I'll never drink before I go on stage again. That was my thing, and within a week. I had a spot, and I was like, but I was still drinking. Yeah. Because at that point I wasn't barking as much, so I didn't have a spot every night. But I would like drink, and then if I had a spot at like 8, this is like would slowly happen. I'd be like, okay, I'll have like 2 beers at like 6 so that I can go. But then those 2 beers at 6 would turn into like 5. Yeah. I'm like, all right, well I'm not drunk, I could do it. Yeah. So I would go on and then it just slowly became drinking every day at like. Earlier, no matter what time the spot was, I would drink at like 1, and then I would have a spot, and then it became, I'm gonna have like 2 beers. You always obviously, you're like, I'm gonna have 2 beers, and then you have 10. Yeah, and you're like, oh fuck, no, I can't do the spot now.
So you would be like, I'm not doing.
Yeah,
the spot.
It wasn't like I think there was a few days where I'm like, I'm gonna go drink with my friends rather than say yes to this spot. Yeah, so I would say no, and then just go drink. But there was most of the time it was like, oh, I have this spot. Okay.
And then next thing
well,
you know,
I'm not going to not drink.
You're hammered and
Yeah.
you're like, fuck.
Yeah.
I did that before I got my breathalyzer in my car.
What?
My interlock. I was like, okay, I have the appointment tomorrow at 11.
Oh.
I can drink a little bit the night before.
Yeah.
Because they say it's like an hour for every shot in your system. So it's like, well, I can do 8 shots because the appointment's not for 12 hours. And then the 8 shots turned into 20.
Yeah. And then,
And then I went to the appointment and the guy was like, you sure you want to get this installed today?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, do it. And then as soon as I blew into it, it popped. And he was like, I'm just going to do this as a wash and come back tomorrow. He's like, this is the first day you're supposed to get the interlock in your car and you're hammered.
The thing, I was always good, although in high school I did it a little bit, drinking and driving. But I'm so terrified of jail that like that's the one thing that will like sober me up.
What did you had put on here that you got arrested? What did you get arrested for?
Drunk in public, intoxication, blah, blah, blah. I also got like a kind of DUI in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I say kind of because, long story short, what happened, I drove to a semi-formal with like, it was like a dance, right? And everybody was drinking, but I was driving because the plan was my house was like 2 minutes away and we were all going to go to the dance and then go sleep at my house, right? And I drove. So again, I'm pretty good with not drinking and driving. I do get very scared of jail. So I'm like, I'm not going to do it. And so I drove to the dance sober, but I had a water bottle of vodka in the front seat.
Yeah, you did.
And as soon as I got there, I chugged it.
Yeah.
Then we went to the dance, and like me and my friends kind of got in trouble because he was like hammered, and I was like the most sober. Yeah. So I kind of took care of him. And then they're like, "How did you guys get here?" And I was like, "Oh, I drove." And they're like, "Well, you're drunk." And I was like, "Oh, fuck yeah."
So you almost got a.
Yeah. Well, I got I talked about this yesterday, but on another thing. But I didn't get a DUI, but I got something of like vehicle and alcohol, like something like that. Yeah. Underage too. I was 17, and I got arrested for that. Then I got arrested in college for like walking down the street.
But no actual jail time, like just arrested.
No, I spent like a night in jail. Yeah, I'm terrified of like going to jail for more than.
It's not fun.
No, yeah, I can't.
I've done a few months.
It's my biggest fear.
And I know there have been other people I've had on the podcast that have done like years. Yeah. Obviously, some of the same comics we know. But yeah, I did. The longest stint I did at once was 4 months or 3 months, dude, something like that.
I mean, I'd kill myself.
It's like the
biggest fear. 4 months. They give me 4 months. Be like, all right, well, I'll see you later. I'll see you in heaven. Yeah.
Well, no, if you kill yourself, you're going to hell. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. If you believe in that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I go back and forth on it. But wait, what were we talking about? I wanted to say
something. That's it. Oh, if you want to say something.
No, it was something about, we were talking about like drinking.
Drinking, driving, alcohol poisoning, DUI, getting arrested, jail time.
Yeah, something about like drinking and driving, but now I forget. It's all good.
Well, you said you don't drink and drive.
Yeah, I don't. Because I was terrified.
I used to drink and drive constantly.
That's what I was. Towards the end of my drinking, like in like November and stuff, I remember I would drive to like go do comedy shows like on the road kind of thing, like 1 or 2 hours away. And I would, because I'm so afraid of drinking and driving, I would like force myself to not drink, which is like, first of all, like when you're drinking and you're like, I can't drink now, you're bored.
Yeah.
You're like, what do I do? But I remember this is like one of the problems. This is one of the things where I was like, oh, I have a problem. I did a show in whatever, I don't know where it was. It's like an hour away. And I knew I would get home at like 10 or 11. I was like, all right, I'll get home at 11. I bought 3 6-pack beer because I love this certain kind of beer that only sold 6-pack, Kona Big Wave. Yeah. Okay. And I bought 18 of them, and I came home at like 11, and I basically just drank those all by myself, and then went to bed. And I had to get up at like 8. And I woke up the next morning. I was like, oh, this is like what they're talking about when they say problem. So I just fucking drank all those by myself. And it wasn't one of those, I'm not, again, obsessive person. There was a part of me that was like, maybe I should just go to, because I like fought going to sleep. I was like trying to stay up to finish.
That's what I did before I got my interlock. I was like, no, I got to finish this bottle.
Because if I went to sleep, I wake up and there's only 3 beers. I'm like, well, I'm going to have to, that's not enough.
That's it.
So I'll finish it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when I was like, oh, this is it. This is a problem.
Well, congratulations on your sobriety, man.
Yeah.
Plug everything one more time.
TJ Francis program on Apple and Spotify. Love Caddies clips and the show at the stand. Next one is August 25th. And then follow me on Instagram at TEEJ Francis.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. At Brennan T. Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. Subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/BrennanTassif, and we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.
Perfect.
That was a lot of fun.
That's fun, man.
That was a good episode.
Yeah.